I know you want to leave me, but I refuse to let you go. If I have to beg, plead for your sympathy, I don't mind, 'cause you mean that much to me. Ain't too proud to beg, and you know it. Please don't leave me, girl. Ain't too proud to plead.
I believe that memory is responsible for all of those dreadful three-volume novels that Lonnie sent us.
You must not speak slightingly of the three-volume novel. I wrote one myself in earlier and happier days.
Did you really, Miss Prism? How wonderfully clever you are. But did it end happily? I hope it did not. I don't like novels that end happily. They depress me so much.
The good ended happily, the bad unhappily. That is what fiction means.
I suppose so. Was your novel ever published?
Alas, no. The manuscript, unfortunately, was abandoned. I use the word in the sense of lost or mislaid. To your works, now, these speculations are providence.
But I see dear Dr. Chasuble coming up the walk.
Oh, Dr. Chasuble, this is indeed a pleasure.
And how are we this morning? Miss Prism, you are, I trust, well?
Well, Miss Prism here has just been complaining of a slight headache, and I think it would be great well if you would go on the walk with her in the garden.
Cecily, I said nothing about a headache.
Yes, I know, Miss Prism, but I thought instinctively that you did have a headache. In fact, I was thinking about that and not my German lessons when the rector came in.
I hope, Cecily, you are not inattentive.
I'm afraid I am.
Oh, that is strange. Were I fortunate enough to be Miss Prism's pupil, I would hang upon her lips. I spoke metaphorically. My metaphor was drawn from bees. Mr. Worthing has not returned from town, has he yet?
We do not expect him till Monday afternoon.
Ah, I see. He usually likes to spend his Sundays in London. He's not one whose sole aim is enjoyment, as by all accounts that unfortunate young man his brother seems to be. But I must not disturb Egeria and a pupil any longer.
Egeria? My name is Letitia, Doctor.
A classical allusion, merely, drawn from the pagan authors. I shall see you both, no doubt, at evensong.
I think, dear Doctor, that I will join you for a walk after all. I find I have a headache and a walk might do it good.
Oh, with pleasure, Miss Prism, with pleasure. We might go as far as the schools and back.
Oh, that would be delightful. Cecily, you will read your political economy in my absence. You may omit the chapter on the fall of the rupee. It is somewhat too sensational. Even these metallic problems have their melodramatic side.
Horrid political economy. Horrid geology. Horrid German.
Mr. Ernest Worthing has just driven over from the station. He has brought his luggage.
Mr. Ernest Worthing, before the Albany. Uncle Jack's brother. Did you tell him Mr. Worthing was in town?
Yes, miss, and he seemed very much disappointed. I had mentioned that you and Miss Prism were in the garden together, and he said that he was anxious to speak to you privately for a moment.
Well, yes. I suppose you better talk to the housekeeper about a room for him?
Yes, miss.
I have never met a truly wicked person before. I'm so afraid he just couldn't look like anybody else. He does.
You are my little cousin Cecily, I'm sure.
You must be under some strange mistake. I am not little. In fact, I believe that I'm more than usually tall for my age. But I am your cousin Cecily, and you, I see from your card, are my cousin Ernest. My wicked cousin Ernest.
Oh, you mustn't think I'm wicked, Cecily. I'm really not wicked at all.
Well, then you've been deceiving us in a very inexcusable manner, pretending to be wicked, but truly being good all the time. That would be hypocrisy.
I suppose I have been rather reckless.
Good. I'm glad to hear.
Now that you mention the subject, I have been very bad in my own small way.
I don't think you should be so proud of that, but I am sure it was rather pleasant.
It's much pleasanter being here with you.
I can't understand how you're here at all. Uncle Jack will be back until Monday.
That is a great disappointment to me. I'm obliged to go up by the first train Monday morning. I have a business appointment I'm anxious to miss.
Oh, well, I know how important it is not to keep a business engagement. One wants to retain any sense of pleasure in this life. But I still think you should wait till Uncle Jack gets back. He wants to speak to you about your emigrating.
About my what?
You're emigrating. Well, he's gone off to buy you your outfit.
I certainly wouldn't let Jack buy my outfit. He has no taste in neckties at all.
Well, I don't think you were requiring neckties where you're going. He's sending you to Australia.
Australia? I'd sooner die.
He said at dinner on Wednesday night that you'd have to choose between this world, the next world, and Australia.
The accounts I've received of the next world and Australia are not particularly encouraging. This world is good enough for me, Cousin Cecily.
Yes, but are you good enough for it?
I'm afraid I'm not that. That is why I hoped you would reform me. You might make it your mission.
I'm afraid I've no time this afternoon.
Would you mind my reforming myself this afternoon?
It seems rather quixotic of you, but I think you should try.
I will. I feel better already.
You're looking a little worse.
That's because I'm hungry.
Oh, how careless of me. Of course, if one is expected to lead an entirely new life, one requires regular and wholesome meals. Won't you come in?
Thank you. Might I have a buttonhole first? I never have an appetite unless I have a buttonhole first.
And why should I kneel?
I'd sooner have a pink rose.
Why?
Because you are like a pink rose, Cousin Cecily.
I don't think you should talk to me like that. Miss Prism never says such things to me.
Well then, Miss Prism is a short-sighted old lady. You're the most beautiful girl I ever saw.
Well, I don't know why. You want to catch a sensible man? You don't know what I would talk to him about.
You're far too alone, dear Dr. Shazivel. You should really get married. A misanthrope I can understand. A womanthrope? Never.
I do not deserve so neologistic a phrase. The precept, as well as the primitive church, was distinctly against matrimony.
That is obviously the reason why the primitive church has not lasted up to the present day. And what you do not seem to realize, dear doctor, that by persistently remaining single, a man converts himself into a permanent public temptation. Men should be more careful. This very seldom seems to lead your vessels astray.
But is a man not equally attractive when married?
No married man is ever attractive except to his wife.
And often I've been told, not even to her.
Depends entirely on the intellectual pleasures of the woman. Ripeness can always be depended on. Maturity can be trusted. Young women are green. I spoke horticulturally. My metaphor was drawn from fruit. But where is Cecily?
Perhaps she followed us to the schools?
Mr. Worthing.
Mr. Worthing?
This is indeed a surprise. We did not look for you till Monday afternoon.
Arrived sooner than expected. Dr. Chasuble, I hope you're well.
My dear Mr. Worthing, I trust this garb of woe is not betoken some terrible calamity.
My brother,
More shameful deaths and extravagance.
Still leading his life of pleasure?
dead.
Your brother is dead?
Quite dead.
What a lesson for him. I trust he will profit by it.
My dear Mr. Worthing, you have my sincerest condolences. You at least have the consolation of knowing that you are always the most generous and forgiving of brothers.
Poor Ernest. He did have his faults, but it is a sad, sad blow.
Very sad indeed. Were you with him at the end?
No, he died abroad, in Paris in fact. He just got a telegram from the manager of the Grand Hotel.
Was the cause of death mentioned?
Severe chill, it seems.
As a man sows, so shall he reap.
Charity, dear Miss Prism, charity. None of us are perfect. I myself am peculiarly susceptible to drafts. Will the interment take place here?
No. He seemed to have expressed a desire to be buried in Paris.
In Paris. I fear that hardly points to any serious state of mind at the last. You shall no doubt wish for me to make some slight allusion to this tragic domestic religion next Sunday. My sermon will be of a manner on almost any occasion, joyful or in the present case, distressing. I have preached it at harvest celebrations, christenings, confirmations, on days of humiliation and festival days. The last time I delivered it was at a charity sermon in the cathedral, on the behalf of the Society for the Prevention of Discontent among the upper orders. The bishop, who was present, was much struck by some of the analogies I drew.
That reminds me, Dr. Chasuble, you mentioned christenings, I think? I suppose you know how to christen, all right? I mean, you are constantly christening, are you not?
It is, I regret to say, the rector's most constant duties in this parish. I've often spoken with the poorer classes on the subject, but they don't seem to know what thrift is.
But is there any particular infant in which you are interested, Mr. Worthing? Your brother was, I believe, unmarried, was he not?
Oh, yes.
People who live entirely for pleasure usually are.
This is not for any mere child. I'm quite fond of children. No, I meant I wish to be christened myself. This afternoon, if you've got nothing better to do.
But surely, Mr. Worthing, you've been christened already.
I don't remember anything about it.
But have you any grave doubts upon the subject?
I certainly intend to. I don't know if the thing would bother you at all, or if you think I'm a little too old now.
Oh, not at all. The sprinkling and indeed the immersion of adults is a perfectly canonical practice.
Immersion?
You need not have any apprehensions. Sprinkling is all that is necessary, and indeed I think advisable. Our weather is so changeable. At what hour would you wish the ceremony be performed?
Oh, I might trot round at about 5, if that would suit you.
Perfectly. Perfectly. I have 2 similar ceremonies to perform at the same time. A case of twins that occurred recently on one of the outlying cottages on your estate. Poor Jenkins the carter. A most hard-working man.
Oh, I don't really see much fun in being christened along with other babies. It would seem childish. Would 5:30 work all right?
Admirably. Admirably. And now, Mr. Worthing, I will no longer intrude into a house of sorrow. I merely trust that you not be too much bowed down by grief. What seem to us bitter trials are often blessings in disguise.
This seems to me a blessing of an extremely obvious kind.
Uncle Jack, I'm so happy you're back. What poor clothes you have on? Do go change.
Cecily!
My child, my child.
What's wrong, Uncle Jack? You look as if you have a toothache. I've got a surprise for you. You'll never guess who's in the living room. Your brother! Your brother. He arrived about half an hour ago.
What nonsense. I haven't got a brother.
No matter how badly he may have treated you in the past, he's still your brother. Wait here. I'll go get him. You will shake hands with him, won't you?
These are very joyful tidings!
After we've all been so resigned to his loss, his sudden return seems to me peculiarly distressing.
My brother Ernest is in the dining room. I don't know at all what it means. It seems to me perfectly absurd. Good heavens.
Brother John, I have come down from town to tell you that I am terribly sorry for all the trouble I've caused you, and that I intend to lead a better life in the future.
Ernest has just been telling me all about his poor invalid friend, Mr. Bunbury. And surely there must be somewhere in someone who goes to the sick at the bed of pain.
He's been talking about Bunbury, has he?
Yes, he's told me all about Mr. Bunbury and his terrible state of health.
Well, I won't allow him to talk about Bunbury or anything else. It is enough to drive one perfectly frantic.
I must say, I admit that all the faults were on my side, but I find Brother John's coldness to me to be particularly painful. Especially considering this is the first time I've come here. I expected a much more enthusiastic welcome.
Uncle Jack, if you do not shake hands with him, I will never forgive you.
Never forgive me.
Never, never, never.
Well, it's the last time I will ever do
It is wonderful, is it not, to see so perfect a reconciliation? I think we might leave the 2 brothers alone.
Cecily, you will come with us.
Yes, my task of reconciliation is over.
You have done a beautiful action today, dear child.
You shall not be premature in our judgments.
it. You young scoundrel, Algie. You've got to get out of here as soon as possible. I don't allow for any Bunbury in here.
I have put Mr. Ernest's things in the room next to yours, sir. I suppose that is all right?
What?
Mr. Ernest's luggage, sir. I have placed it in the room next to your own.
His luggage?
Yes, sir. 3 portmanteaus, a dressing case. 2 hot boxes and a large luncheon basket.
I'm afraid I can't stay more than a week this time.
Merriman, order the dog cart. Mr. Ernest Worthing has been called back to town very suddenly.
Yes, sir.
What a fearful liar you are, Jack. I haven't been called anywhere at all.
Yes, you have.
No, I didn't hear anyone call me.
Your duty as a gentleman calls you back.
My duty as a gentleman has never interfered with my pleasures in the smallest degree.
I can certainly understand that.
Cecily is a darling.
You will not speak with Miss Carter like that. I don't like it.
Well, I don't like your clothes. You look perfectly ridiculous in them. Why don't you go up and change? It's very childish to be in mourning for someone who is actually staying with you as a guest in your house for a whole week.
You are most certainly not staying with me for a whole week as a guest or anything else. You've got to get out of here by the 4 or 5 train.
I certainly won't leave you while you're so deep in mourning. It would be very unkind of me. If I was in mourning, you would stay with me, I suppose. I should think it very unfriendly if you didn't.
If I change my clothes, will you go?
Yes. And if you don't take too long. Never seen anyone take so long to dress with such little result.
Well, it is better than always being overdressed as you are.
I'm occasionally overdressed. I make up for it by always being immensely overeducated.
Your vanity is ridiculous. Your conduct an outrage, and your presence in my garden utterly absurd. But you have got to catch the 4:05 train, and I hope you have a pleasant journey back into town. This fun borrowing, as you call it, has not been a great success for you.
I think it has been a great success. I'm in love with Cecily, and that is everything. But I must see her and make arrangements for another bunbury before I leave. There she is.
Oh, I thought you were Uncle Jack. I really came back to order the roses.
He has gone to order the dog cart for me.
Oh, is he taking you on a nice drive?
No, he's sending me away.
Then we've got to part?
I'm afraid so. It's very painful, parting.
Yes, well, it's very painful for one who just met somebody. The absence of old friends can be one to endure, but from the momentary separation of someone you just met is almost unbearable.
The dog cart is at the door, sir.
It can wait, Merriman. For 5 minutes.
Yes.
Cecily, I hope I will not offend you if I state quite frankly and openly that you seem to me to be in every way the absolute personification of perfection.
I think your frankness does you great credit, Ernest. If you don't mind, I would like to copy your remarks into my diary.
Do you really keep a diary? I'd give anything to see it. May I?
No! You see, it is just simply the very young girl's record of her own thoughts and impressions, and consequently meant for publication when it appears in volume form. I hope you buy a copy. But pray, Ernest, don't stop. I'm quite ready for more. You can go on. I have reached absolute perfection. Oh, don't cough, Ernest. When one is dictating, one should speak fluently and not cough. Besides, I don't know how to spell a cough.
Ever since the first time I laid eyes on your wonderful and incomparable beauty, I have dared to love you wildly, hopelessly, devotedly, passionately.
I don't think that you should tell me that you love me wildly, passionately, devotedly, and hopelessly. Hopelessly doesn't seem to make much sense, does it?
Cecily.
The dog cart is waiting, sir.
Tell him to come around next week at the same hour.
Yes, sir.
I don't know if Uncle Jack would be very happy to see you staying here another week.
I don't care about Jack. I don't care about anyone in the whole world but you. I love you, Cecily. You will marry me, won't you?
Why, of course, you silly boy, while we've been engaged for the last 3 months.
For the last 3 months.
Yes, it'll be 3 months on Thursday.
But how did we become engaged?
Well, ever since Uncle Jack had confessed that he had a younger brother, you see, you have been the chief topic between myself and Miss Prism. Any man who's talked about that much between myself and Miss Prism, well, I dare say, Ernest, that I fell in love with you.
Oh, and when was the engagement actually settled?
The last February 14th. I also have this box of letters you've written for me.
My letters? But, my own sweet Cecily, I've never written you any letters.
You hardly remind me of that, Ernest. I had written for you. I wrote every week and sometimes often.
Might I see them?
No. You see, they would make you far too conceited. The ones I had written after I had broken off our engagement were so beautiful and so badly spelled I could hardly keep them crying a little.
But was our engagement ever broken off?
Well, yes, it would be hardly a serious engagement if it wasn't broken off.
And is there a record of this being broken off?
Yes, I wrote it in my diary. March 22nd. Today I broke off my engagement with Ernest. I feel better doing so. The weather still continues charming.
But why on earth did you break it off? Cecily, I must say I'm very hurt to hear you broke off our engagement. Especially when the weather was so charming.
Well, you don't have to worry, Ernest. I forgave you before the week was out.
You're a perfect angel.
Oh, you romantic boy. Your hair curls naturally like this, doesn't it?
Yes, darling, with some help from others.
Good, I'm so glad.
And you'll never break off our engagement again?
Never. I couldn't possibly, now that I finally met you. There's the back of your name, though.
Yes, of course.
Well, Ernest, it's always been some sort of girlish dream of mine to marry the man named Ernest. That name inspires confidence and character. I pity any poor woman who's not married to a man named Ernest.
But, my own sweet Cecily, do you mean to tell me you couldn't marry me if I had some other name?
But what name?
Oh, any name you like. Algernon, for example?
But I don't like the name Algernon.
But my own sweet, loving, little darling. I really don't see why you should object to the name of Algernon. It's really not a bad name at all. In fact, it is a rather aristocratic name. Half of the chaps who get to the bankruptcy court are called Algernon. But seriously, Cecily, if my name was Algernon, wouldn't you love me?
I might respect you, Ernest. I might admire your character, but I don't think I could give you my undivided attention.
Cecily, your rector here is, I suppose, thoroughly experienced in all the rites and ceremonials of the church?
Yes, he's never written a book, so you can imagine how much he knows.
I must speak to him at once about a very important christening. I mean, on very important business.
Oh,
I shan't be gone for more than half an hour.
well, that doesn't seem fair to you. Leave me for half an hour. Couldn't you make it 20 minutes?
Be back as soon as possible.
Such a charming boy. I do love his hair. I must enter his proposal into my diary.
A Miss Fairfax has just called to see Mr. Worthing on very important business, Miss Fairfax states.
Is Mr. Worthing in his library?
He went over in the direction of the rectory some time ago.
Oh, well, send you here, and you can bring tea.
Yes, miss.
Miss Fairfax, I suppose one of the many elderly ladies Uncle Jack works with in his philanthropic work. I don't like women who are in the philanthropic work. It's so very forward of them.
Miss Fairfax.
Let me introduce myself. My name is Cecily Cardew.
Cecily Cardew? What a very sweet name. I feel that we're going to be great friends. I really like you more than I can say. My first impressions of people are never wrong.
Well, how kind of you to say that you like me so much after we've known each other for such a comparatively short time.
I may call you Cecily, may I not?
You may,
You will always call me Gwendolyn, won't you?
if you wish.
Then that is all quite settled, is it not?
Well, I hope so.
I think it a favorable opportunity of my mentioning who I am. My father is Lord Bracknell. You never heard of Papa, I suppose?
I don't suppose I have.
Papa, I'm glad to say, is entirely known outside of our family circle. I think that is quite as it should be. The home is the perfect sphere for the man, and once a man begins to neglect his domestic duties, he becomes painfully effeminate, does he not? I don't like that. It makes men so very attractive. Cecily, Mama, whose views on education are remarkably strict, has brought me up to be extremely short-sighted. It is part of her system. So, may I look at you through my glasses?
Yes, I'm quite fond of being looked at.
You're here on a short visit, I suppose.
No, I live here.
Really? Your mother, no doubt, or another female relative of advanced years who resides here also?
No, I have no mother, or in fact, any relations. I live here with my guardian, and Miss Prism has the odious task of looking after me.
Your guardian?
Yes, I am Mr. Worthing's ward.
Oh. I did not know that Mr. Worthing had a ward. How secretive of him. He grows more interesting hourly. But I'm bound to state that I know that you are Mr. Worthing's ward. I can't help expressing feelings of unmixed delight. I like you, Cecily. Ever since I first saw you, I knew that we were going to be friends, but I'm bound to state that I wish that you were a little older than you seem to be and not so very alluring in appearance. In fact, if I may speak candidly.
Well, pray do. I believe that when someone has something unpleasant to say, one should speak in perfect candor.
Well, to speak in perfect candor, Cecily, I wish that you were fully 42 and more than usually plain for your age. Ernest has a strong, upright nature. He's the very soul of truth and honor. Disloyalty would be as impossible to him as deception. But even men of the noblest possible moral character are extremely susceptible to the physical charms of others. Modern, no less than ancient history, has supplied us with many most painful examples of what I refer to. If it were not so, history would be quite unreadable.
I beg your pardon, Gwendolyn. Did you say Ernest?
Yes.
Oh, why, I'm not Mr. Ernest Worthing's ward. I'm his brother, his elder brother.
His brother? I did not know he had a brother.
Yes, well, I'm afraid to say they've not been on very good terms for quite a while.
Ah, that accounts for it then. Now that you've mentioned it, I don't think I've ever heard any man mention a brother. The subject seems distasteful to most men. Cecily lifted a load off of my mind. I was growing almost anxious. It would have been terrible if any cloud had come over a friendship like ours, would it not? But we're quite sure that it is not Mr. Ernest Worthing who is your guardian.
Yes, quite sure. In fact, I'm going to be his...
I beg your pardon.
I feel no need to keep this a secret from you, dear Gwendolyn. It's going to appear in our little county newspaper sometime next week. Mr. Ernest Worthing and I are engaged to be married.
I feel that there is some slight error, Miss Cardew, for I'm engaged to Ernest, and the announcement will appear in the Morning Post Saturday at the latest.
I'm so sorry, dear Gwendolyn, but Ernest proposed to me about 10 minutes ago. He's proposed here in my diary.
It is quite curious, for he proposed to me yesterday afternoon at 5:30. If you care to verify the incident, pray do so. I never travel anywhere without my diary. One should always have something sensational to read on the train. I'm sorry, my dear Cecily, if it is any disappointment to you, but I'm afraid that I have the prior claim.
I'm sorry, dear Gwendolyn, but it seems that since Ernest has proposed to you, he has clearly changed his mind.
If the poor fellow has been entrapped into any foolish promise, I shall consider it my duty to rescue him at once, and with a firm hand.
If my poor boy has gotten himself into any entanglements, I will approach him with it after we have been married.
Do you allude to me, Miss Cardew, as an entanglement? You are presumptuous. In matters like these, it becomes more than a moral duty to speak one's mind. It becomes a pleasure.
Do you say that I entrapped Ernest into an engagement? How dare you? When I see a spade, I call it a spade.
I'm glad to say that I've never seen a spade. It is obvious that our social spheres have been widely different.
Shall I lay the tea here as usual, miss?
Yes. As usual.
Are there any nice walks in the vicinity, Miss Cardew?
Yes, from quite atop that hill there, you can quite close to 5 counties.
5 counties? I don't think I should like that.
I suppose that is why you live in London?
Quite a very well-kept garden you have, Miss Cardew.
Thank you, Miss Fairfax.
I didn't know that any flowers grew in the country.
Yes, flowers are quite common here, as are people in London.
I don't know how anybody manages to exist in the country, if anybody who is anybody does. The country always bores me to death.
I believe that is what they call agricultural depression, is it not? Seems to be a rising epidemic. Tea?
Yes, thank you. Detestable girl, but I require tea.
Sugar?
No, thank you. Sugar isn't fashionable anymore. Sir, please. Cake is rarely seen at the best households nowadays.
And that, Miss Fairfax.
You have filled my tea with lumps of sugar, and though I most distinctly asked for bread and butter, you have given me cake. I'm known for the gentleness of my disposition and the sweetness of my nature, but I warn you, Miss Cardew, you may go too far.
To save my poor boy from anything, there are no lengths to which I will not go.
From the moment I saw you, I distrusted you. I thought that you were false and deceitful, and I'm never deceived in such manners. In cases like these, one should always speak truthfully. I never liked you, Miss Cardew.
I don't suppose I'm keeping you from anything else in the neighborhood? Any calls, per se?
Gwendolyn, darling.
Ernest, my own Ernest. A moment. May I ask, are you engaged to this young lady?
So little Cecily. Of course not. What could have put such an idea into your pretty little head?
Thank you, you may.
I knew there must have been some slight error, Mrs. Fairfax, but the gentleman whose arm is present around your waist is my dear guardian, Mr. Jack Worthing.
I beg your pardon.
This is Uncle Jack.
Jack. Ew.
Mr. Ernest.
My own love.
A moment, Ernest. May I ask if you are engaged to be married to this young lady?
To what young lady? Good heavens, Gwendolyn.
Yes, to good heavens, Gwendolyn. I mean, to Gwendolyn.
Of course not. What could have put such an idea into your pretty little head?
Thank you. You may.
I knew that there must have been some slight error, for the man who is now embracing you is my cousin, Mr. Algernon Moncrief.
Algernon Moncrief? Oh. Are you called Algernon?
I cannot deny it.
Is your name really John?
I could deny it if I liked. Could deny anything if I liked. But my name is John. It has been John for years.
My poor wounded Cecily.
My sweet Robert Gwendolyn.
You'll call me sister, won't you?
One question I would like to be allowed to ask my guardian.
Yes. Mr. Worthing, where is your brother Ernest? We are both engaged to be married to your brother Ernest, so it is of some importance to us to know where your brother Ernest is at present.
Gwendolyn, Cecily, it is very painful for me to have to be forced to speak the truth to you. I've never been reduced to such a painful position, and I really have no experience in anything of the kind. But I will tell you quite candidly, I have no brother Ernest. I have no brother at all. I've never had a brother, and I certainly don't intend on ever having a brother in the future.
No brother at all.
None.
Not one of any kind.
Not even of any kind.
Well, it appears to me, my dear Cecily, that neither of us are engaged to be married to anyone.
It's a rather unpleasant position for a young girl to find herself in, now, isn't it?
Let us go into the house. They will hardly venture to come after us there.
No. Men are so cowardly, aren't they?
This ghastly state of things is what you call bunburying, I suppose.
Yes, and a perfectly wonderful Bunbury it is. The most wonderful Bunbury I've ever had in my life.
Well, you've got no right whatsoever to bunbury here.
That is absurd. One has a right to Bunbury anywhere one chooses. Every serious Bunburyist knows that.
Serious bunburyist, good heavens.
Well, one must be serious about something if one wants to have any amusement in life. I happen to be serious about Bunbury. But you're serious about not having the remotest idea. About everything, I should fancy. You have such an absolutely trivial nature.
Well, the only small satisfaction I have of the whole of this business is that I find your friend Bunbury is quite exploded. You won't be able to run down to the country quite so often anymore, and not a bad thing either.
Well, your brother is looking a little off color, isn't he, Jack? You won't be able to disappear to London as often as your wicked custom was, and not a bad thing either.
As for your conduct towards Miss Cardew, I think that you taking in a simple, innocent girl like that is quite inexcusable. To say nothing of the fact that she is my ward.
Well, I can see no defense at all in your deceiving a brilliant, clever, thoroughly experienced young lady like Miss Fairfax. To say nothing of the fact that she's my cousin.
I am in love with Gwendolyn. I wanted to be married to her. That is all.
Well, I simply want to be engaged to Cecily. I adore her.
There is certainly no chance of you marrying Miss Cardew.
Well, I don't think there's much likelihood, Jack, of you and Miss Fairfax being united.
That is no business of yours.
Well, if it was my business, I wouldn't talk about it. It's vulgar to talk about one's business. Only people like stockbrokers do that. And then merely at dinner parties.
How can you sit there, calmly eating muffins, when we are in this terribly trouble?
I can't eat muffins in an agitated manner. The butter will probably go to my cups. Calmly is the only way to eat muffins at all.
I think it's perfectly heartless you're eating muffins at all under the circumstances.
When I'm in trouble, eating is the only thing that consoles me. Indeed, when I'm in really great trouble, as anyone who knows me intimately will tell you, I refuse everything except food and drink. At the present moment, I'm eating because I am unhappy. Besides, I'm particularly fond of muffins.
You don't have to eat them all in such a greedy way.
I wish you would have tea cake instead. I don't like tea cake.
Oh, good heavens! I suppose a man may eat his own muffins in his own garden.
But you have just said it was perfectly heartless eating muffins.
I said it was perfectly harmless of you under the circumstances. That was quite a different matter.
Yes, but the muffins are the same.
Algernon, I wish to goodness you would go.
You can't possibly ask me to go without having some dinner first. I never go without my dinner. No one ever does. Only people like vegetarians do that.
That is nonsense. You're always talking nonsense.
Jack, you're at the muffins again. I wish you wouldn't. I told you I'm particularly fond of muffins.
I have already told you to go. I don't want you here. Why don't you go?
I haven't quite finished my tea yet. And there's still 2 muffins left.
They don't seem to notice us at all. Could you cough?
But I haven't coughed.
Oh, they're looking at us. What effrontery.
They're approaching. That's very forward of them.
We'll keep a dignified silence.
Certainly. The only thing to do now.
Charming Chesterfield.
This dignified silence seems to be producing an unpleasant effect. We will not be the first to speak.
Definitely not.
Mr. Worthing, I have something very particular to ask you. Much depends on your reply.
How admirable of you, Gwendolyn. Mr. Moncrief, kindly tell me why you pretended to be my guardian's brother.
So that I might have an opportunity of meeting you.
His answer seems satisfactory.
Yes, dear, if you can believe him.
I don't, but there's a truthful quality in his voice.
Yes, in matters of brave importance, style, if not sincerity, is the vital thing. Mr. Worthing, what explanation can you offer me for pretending to have a brother? Was was in order that you might be able to visit me as often as possible.
Can you doubt it, Miss Fairfax?
I have the gravest doubts upon the subject, but I intend to crush them. This is not a time for German skepticism. Their answers seem to be quite satisfactory, especially Mr. Worthing's. Do you think we should forgive them?
Yes. I mean, no.
True, there are matters at stake that one cannot surrender. Which one of us should tell them is not a pleasant one?
Could we both speak at the same time?
Yes, I often speak at the same time as others. Will you take the time from me? Your Christian names are still an insufferable barrier. That is all.
Christian names? Is that all? But we are going to be christened this afternoon.
For me, you're willing to do this awful thing?
I am.
For me, you're prepared to do this horrible deed?
I am.
To talk about the equality of the sexes, as far as self-sacrifice is concerned, men are infinitely beyond us.
We are.
They have moments of physical courage that which we women know nothing about.
Darling.
Doug.
Lady Bratton.
Good heavens.
Finally, what does this mean? Merely that I am engaged to Mr. Worthing, Mamma.
You are nothing of the kind. Come, here, sit down. Sit down immediately. Hesitation of any kind, sign of mental decay in the young. A physical weakness in the old. Apprised, sir, of my daughter's sudden flight by her trusty maid, whose confidence I purchased by means of a small coin. I followed her at once by a luggage train. Her unhappy father is, I am glad to say, under the impression that she's attending a more than usually lengthy lecture by the University Extension Scheme on the influence of permanent income on thought. I do not propose to undeceive him. Indeed, I have never undeceived him on any question I would consider it wrong. But of course you will understand that all communication between yourself and my daughter must cease immediately from this moment. On this point, as indeed on all points, I am firm.
I am engaged. I am engaged to be married to Lady Bracknell, I am engaged to be married to Gwendolyn.
You are nothing of the kind, sir. And now, as regards Algernon. Algernon,
Yes, Aunt Augusta?
may I ask if it is in this house in which your invalid friend Mr. Bunbury resides?
Oh, no. Bunbury doesn't live here. Bunbury is somewhere else at present. In fact, Bunbury is dead.
Dead? When did he die? His death must have been extremely sudden.
No, I killed Bunbury this afternoon. I mean, Bunbury died this afternoon.
What did he die of?
Bunbury. Oh. He was quite exploded.
Was he the victim of a revolutionary outrage? I was not aware that Mr. Bunbury was interested in social legislation. If so, he is well punished for his morbidity.
I mean, he was found out. The doctors found out that Bunbury could not live. That's what I mean. And so, Bunbury died.
He seems to have had great confidence in the opinion of his physicians. I am glad, however, that he made up his mind at the last to some definite course of action, and acted under proper medical advice. And now that we've gotten rid of this Mr. Bunbury, Mr. Worthing, may I ask, who is that young person whose hand my nephew Algernon seems to be holding in what seems to me a peculiarly unnecessary manner?
That lady is my ward, Cecily Cardew.
I am engaged to be married to Cecily, Aunt Augusta.
I beg your pardon.
I'm engaged to be married to Mr. Moncrief.
I do not know if there's anything peculiarly exciting in the air of this particular part of Hertfordshire, but the number of engagements that go on seems to me decidedly above the average that statistics have laid down for our guidance. I think some preliminary inquiry on my part would not be out of place. Mr. Worthing, may I ask if Miss Cardew is at all connected with any of the railway stations in London? I merely desire information. Until yesterday, I had no idea there was any families or persons whose origin was a terminus.
Miss Cardew is the granddaughter of late Mr. Thomas Cardew of 149 Belgrave Square. Gervase Park, Dorking, Surrey, Ennisborough, and Fifeshire. No family.
That sounds not unsatisfactory. 3 addresses always inspire confidence, even in tradesmen. But what proof I have of their authenticity?
I have carefully preserved the courtyards of this term. They're open to your inspection.
I have known strange errors in that publication.
Miss Cardew's family solicitors are Messrs. Markby, Markby, and Markby.
Markby, Markby, and Markby. A firm of the very highest position in their profession. Indeed, I am told that one of Mr. Markby's is occasionally to be seen at dinner parties. So far, I am satisfied.
How generous of you, Lady Bracknell. I also have in my possession, you will be pleased to know, documents of Miss Cardew's birth, baptism, whooping cough, registration, vaccination, and the measles, both the English and German variety.
Ah, life crowded with incident, I see. Though perhaps somewhat too premature for such a young person. I am not myself in favor of premature experiences. Come, Gwendolyn, the time's come for our departure. Mr. Worthing, as a matter of form, I'd better ask if Miss Cardew has any little fortune.
Oh, about £130,000 in the funds. That is all, Lady Bracknell. So pleased to have seen you.
A moment, Mr. Worthing. £130,000 in funds? Miss Cardew seems to me a most attractive young lady now that I look at her. Few girls of the present day have really any solid qualities, the ones that last and improve in time. We live, I regret to say, in an age of services. Come here, dear child. Pretty girl, your dress is sadly simple and your hair seems almost as nature might have left it. But we can soon alter all that. A thoroughly experienced French maid produces a really marvelous result in a very brief space of time. I remember recommending one to young Lady Lansing, and after 3 months, her own husband did not know her.
After 6 months, nobody knew her.
Turn around, dear. No, dear, the side view is what I wanted. Yes, it is just as I expected. There are distinct social possibilities in your profile. The 2 weak points in this age are its want of profile and its want of principle. The chin a little higher, dear. Style largely depends on the way the chin is worn. They are worn very high just at present. Algernon?
Yes, Aunt Augusta.
There are distinct social possibilities in Miss Cardew's profile.
Cecily is the dearest, sweetest, prettiest girl in the whole world, and I don't care 2 pence about social possibilities.
Never speak disrespectfully of society, Algernon. Only people who can't get into it do that. But of course, my dear, you know that Algernon has nothing but his debts to depend upon. But I do not approve of mercenary marriages. Indeed, when I married Lord Bracknell, I had no fortune of any kind. But I never dreamed for a moment of allowing that to stand in my way. Well, I suppose I must give my consent.
Thank you, Aunt Augusta.
Cecily, you may kiss me.
Thank you, Miss Bracknell.
And you may address me as Aunt Augusta for the future.
Thank you, Aunt Augusta.
The wedding had better take place quite soon, I think.
Thank you, Aunt Augusta.
I do not approve of long engagements. They give people the opportunity of finding each other's character before marriage, which I think is never advisable.
Pray, Lady Bracknell, excuse me for interrupting you, but this engagement is quite out of the question. Miss Cardew is my ward, and she cannot marry until she becomes of age without my consent.
And why would you not give your consent? Algernon is an extremely, I may say, ostentatiously eligible young man. He has nothing, but he looks everything. What more can one desire?
Pray, I am sorry that I have to speak quite frankly about your nephew to you. But the fact is, I do not approve of his moral character. I suspect him of being untruthful.
Untruthful? My nephew Algernon? Impossible! He is not serving you.
I'm afraid there can be no grave doubts upon the subject. Earlier this afternoon, during my temporary absence in London on a question of important romance, he obtained admission to my house by false pretense of being my brother. Under an assumed name, he drank, I've just been informed by my butler, an entire bottle of Perrier 89, a wine I was specially reserving for myself. Continuing his disgraceful deception, he successfully stayed the afternoon and alienated the affections of my only boy. He subsequently stayed to tea and devoured every single muffin, and what makes his conduct all the more heartless is that he knows perfectly well that I do not have a brother, I have never had a brother, and I don't intend on ever having a brother, not of the any kind! I distinctly told him myself yesterday afternoon.
After careful consideration, I have decided to entirely overlook my nephew's conduct to you.
How generous, Lady Bracknell. However, my own decision is unalterable. I decline to give my consent.
Come here, dear. How old are you, dear?
18, but I always admit to 20.
You are quite right in making some alteration. A woman should never be entirely accurate about her age. It looks so calculated. 18. Admitting to 20 at evening parties. Well, it will not be long before you are of age and free from the restraints of tutelage. Therefore, I do not think your guardian's consent is, after all, a matter of much importance.
Pray, excuse me for interrupting you again, Lady Bracknell, but under the terms of her grandfather's will, she does not come of age until she is 35.
That does not seem to me to be a grave objection. 35 is a very attractive age. London society is full of women who of their own free choice remain 35 for years. Lady Dumbleton is listed in point. To my knowledge, she has remained 35 ever since she arrived at the age of 40, which was many years ago now. I see no reason why our dear little Cecily will not be even still more attractive than at the age you mentioned that she is at present. Well, of course, there will be a large accumulation of property.
Algie, could you wait for me till I was 35?
Of course I could, Cecily. You know I could.
I don't know if I could wait that long. I hate waiting even for anyone. It makes me so cross. I don't know what to do.
What is to be done, Cecily?
I don't know, Mr. Murphy.
Mr. Worthing, as Miss Cardew states positively that she cannot wait until she is 35, a remark which I am bound to say seems to show a somewhat impatient nature. I must beg of you to reconsider your decision.
But Lady Bracknell, the matter is entirely in your hands. The moment you consent to my marriage with Gwendolen, I will gladly allow your nephew to form an alliance with my ward.
You must be completely aware that what you propose is out of the question.
Then a passionate celibacy is all we can look forward to.
That is not the destiny I propose for Gwendolen. Algernon, of course, can decide for himself. Come, Gwendolen, we have already missed 5, if not 6 trains. To miss any more might expose us to comment on the platform.
Everything is quite ready for the christenings.
The christening, sir? Is that not somewhat premature?
This is designed for immediate baptism.
At their age, the idea is grotesque and irreligious. Algernon, I forbid you to be baptized. Lord Bracknell would be highly displeased if he knew that that was the way in which you wasted your time and money.
Am I to understand then that there are to be no christenings at all this afternoon?
I don't think that, as things are now, it would be of much practical value to anyone.
Oh, I am grieved to hear such sentiments from you, Mr. Worthing. They speak of the heretical views of the Anabaptists, views that I have refuted in 4 of my unpublished sermons. But because your mood seems to be one peculiarly secular, I will return to the church at once. Indeed, I have just been informed by the pew opener that Miss Prism has awaited me in the vestry for the last hour and a half.
Miss Prism? Did I hear you mention a Miss Prism?
Yes, Lady Bracknell, I was on my way to join her.
Is this Miss Prism a female of repellent aspect, remotely connected with education?
She is the most cultivated of ladies and the very picture of respectability.
It is obviously the same person. May I ask what position she holds in your household?
I am a celibate, ma'am.
Lady Bracknell has for over 3 years been Miss Cardew's esteemed governess and valued companion.
In spite of what I hear of her, I must see her at once. Let her be sent for.
She approaches. She's nigh.
I was told you expected me in the vestry, dear Lieutenant. I was waiting there for an hour and 3/4.
Prism! Come here, Prism! Prism! Where is that baby? 28 years ago, Prism, you left Lord Bracknell's house, number 104, Upper Grosvenor Street, in charge of a perambulator that contained a baby of the male sex. You never returned. Through the thorough investigations of the Metropolitan Police, the perambulator was discovered standing by itself near a remote corner of Bayswater. It contained the manuscript of a 3-volume novel of more than usually revolting sentimentality. But the baby was not there. Prism! Where is that baby?
Lady Bracknell, I admit with shame that I do not know. I only wish I did.
The plain facts of the case are these. On the morning of the day you mentioned, a day that is forever branded on my memory, I prepared as usual to take the baby out of its perambulator. I had also with me a somewhat old but capacious handbag in which I intended to place the manuscript of a work of fiction that I had written during my few unoccupied hours. And during a moment of mental abstraction, for which I can never forgive myself, I deposited the manuscript in the bassinet and placed the baby in the handbag.
Where did you place the handbag?
Do not ask me, Mr. Worthing.
This is not a matter of small importance. I insist on knowing where you placed the handbag that contained that infant.
I left it in the cloakroom of one of the larger railway stations in London.
What railway station?
Victoria, the Brighton line.
I must retire to my room for a moment. Gwendolyn, you will wait for me here?
I'll wait for you my whole life. You don't take too long.
What do you think this means, Lady Bracknell?
I dare not even suspect Dr. Chasuble. I need hardly tell you that in families of high position, strange coincidences are not supposed to occur. They are hardly considered the thing.
Uncle Jack seems very agitated.
Your guardian has a very emotional nature.
The noise is extremely unpleasant. It sounds as though you were having an argument. I dislike arguments. They're always vulgar and often convincing.
It is stopped now.
I wish you would arrive at some conclusion.
I hope it will last. I love the suspension.
Miss Prism, is this the handbag in which you deposited that infant? Pray, examine it carefully before you speak. The happiness of more than one life depends on your answer.
It seems to be mine. Yes, here's the injury received through the upsetting of the Gower Street omnibus in earlier and happier days. There's the stain on the lining caused by the explosion of a temperance beverage, an incident that occurred at Leamington. Yes, here on the lock are my initials. I had forgotten that I'd had them placed there in an extravagant mood. The bag is undoubtedly mine. I'm delighted to have it so unexpectedly restored to me after all these years. It's been a great inconvenience being without it.
More than that handbag has been returned to you. I was the baby you placed in it.
You?
Yes, Mother!
Mr. Worthing, I'm unmarried.
Unmarried. Well, I do deny that that is a serious blow. But cannot repentance wipe out an act of folly? Why should there be one rule for men and another for women? I forgive you, Mother.
Mr. Worthing, I believe there is some error here. There is the woman who can tell you who you really are.
Lady Bracknell, I hate to seem inquisitive. Could you kindly inform me of who I am?
I am afraid that the news I have to tell you will not altogether please you. You are the son of my poor sister, Mrs. Moncrief, and you are consequently Algernon's elder brother.
Algy's elder brother. I always knew I had a brother. I always said I had a brother. Cecily, how could you have ever doubted that I had a brother? Dr. Chasuble, my unfortunate brother. Miss Prism, my unfortunate brother. Gwendolyn, my unfortunate brother. And Algy, you have never acted to me as a brother your entire life.
Not till today, old boy, I admit. Although I did my best, however, I was about to practice.
My own one. But what own are you? What is your Christian name now that you've changed who you are?
Quite forgotten that fact. I suppose your opinion on my name is unchangeable?
I never change, except in my affections.
Then the question must be cleared up at once. Lady Bracknell, when I was placed in that handbag, had I been christened already?
Every luxury that money could buy, including christening, had been lavished on you by your fond and doting parents.
What name was I given? Let me know the worst.
Being the oldest, you were naturally christened after your father.
Yes, I know that, but what was my father's Christian name?
I cannot at the present moment recall what the general's Christian name was. I have no doubt that he had one. The general was eccentric, I admit, but that was only in later years, and that was due to the Indian climate and marriage and indigestion and other things of that sort.
Algy, can't you recollect our father's Christian name?
My dear boy, we were never even on speaking terms. He died before I was a year old.
His name would appear in the army lists of the past century, would it not?
The general was essentially a man of peace, except in his domestic life. But I have no doubt his name would appear on any military directory.
These books should have been my constant study. M. Moncrief. Colonel, yeah. Christian names. Gwendolyn, I've always told you my name was Ernest, haven't I? Well, it is Ernest. I mean, naturally, it is Ernest.
Yes, I recall that the general was called Ernest. I knew I had a reason for disliking that name.
My own Ernest, I knew from the start you could have no other name.
I've been speaking the truth my whole life. Can you forgive me?
I can, for I know that you are bound to change.
My own one. Oh, Letitia.
Frederick, at last.
Cecily, at last.
Gwendolyn, at last.
My nephew, you seem to be displaying signs of triviality.
On the contrary, Augusta, for I, for the first time in my life, realized the vital importance of being earnest.